Hi guys, welcome to Chakra Sessions. I'm your host, Polly Jo Labbe, and here we are on this day, September 11th. It brings a lot of energy, a lot of memories, a lot of things to come to the surface. Hi guys. So as we are in this energy, we're all triggered, especially us adults, right? But we're triggered as a country, we're triggered as a society, and the day has a lot of vivid memories for many of us. And attached to that triggered memory is grief. Some of it that we've expressed and some of it that we haven't. There's also going to be things like anger and other energy that may be attached to that. But the focus of today is about the grief. But my spiritual team was kind of, we've done grief recently, so I wasn't really understanding why this grief felt different. And so part of it is that when we have a triggered memory as a country, even as the whole planet, this day has a particular vibration. And for most people, it was traumatic in some way. Your safety felt compromised. The horror of it. And, if you, like I had small children who were in classrooms, and I couldn't control what information they were seeing or how they were receiving it. And I only live about 3 hours away from New York City. And it is, one of my favorite cities to go to. And it was just really difficult as an empath to experience. So every time we roll around to this birthday, there are triggered memories for myself, but there are triggered memories for everyone around us. And in that space, we have an opportunity to take what's still stuck in our body and release the memory. It means we release the energy of shock, or the energy of anger, or the energy of intense grief, however we held on to that. Because it also then triggers other things in us that we are angry about or sad about, so it's a very emotional day of remembrance for us. If those of you who are watching Neshi's show right before mine, there are people who talked about, when Kennedy was assassinated. For those who are old enough to have been and lived through that, it was a day of, complete shock as a country, as a nation, as a whole. And for many people, for Martin Luther King, or for Robert Kennedy, it didn't really matter that the age that you were, you felt that moment in time get frozen in your energy body. And so today is all about really releasing what we might be holding on to in there. So I generalized it as grief because I wasn't sure what my spiritual team had up their sleeve. But as we got closer to the day, I started to feel that remembrance in my own energy body and was like, oh yes, there's old trauma for all of us, having to see it on TV over and over and over again. And, if you have TV on today, I'm sure they're still doing it, years later. So this is all part of what we're going to work on and release today. So let me sort of check in with the peeps, see who's here today. Molly and Ellen set reminders, which was great. And Lindsay invited her friend. And Rob, of course, was here with What'd You Know, Polly Jo. And I'm glad you will watch this in the archives. I think you'll enjoy it. Hi, Adrian. Nice to see you. Always good to have a friendly face. Hi, Robin. Glad you made it over. And Christine, thanks for joining me. Carol, can't wait to see you in person. It's going to be so soon. So I'm glad you're here for a few minutes. And hi, Neshi. Thanks for joining us. Neshi is here as a reminder. Well, I see her name and it reminds me that for us to get this broadcast out there, maybe there's somebody else who had, a really hard time with September 11th back in the day, or maybe they still are. And it's time for them to make some room and let that go. So, please like and share this broadcast, even if it's after the fact, because they'll be able to watch it in its recorded state. Because I think we all have had traumatic events that froze us in time. And September 11th is just a huge reminder for us here, to look at that. If you had a big car accident or a surgery or a death in the family, those are all things that are frozen like a moment in time. And when we have that sensation of freezing, that is when our adrenal system has gone into fight, flight, or freeze. We often, if we're empaths, normally we feel everything, and all of a sudden we feel nothing. We feel dull, we feel empty, we feel numb. And when that happens, our energy has sort of stopped its normal flow, like somebody turned off the valve, and that moment, that hiccup, gets stuck in our body. And the longer the moment of that frozen feeling, the more stuck it is within us. Hi, Allie. Nice to see you. And Judy. I know, Carol, October can't get here soon enough for me to come out to the Midwest and see you guys. I'll be coming out to Star Nations to teach, and I hope I'll get to see and hug some of you in person at that. That's like my favorite part, getting to hug people that I've only seen on the broadcast. And I mean, it's a sweet little town near Toma where Neshi is. We had a great time when I was visiting her not that long ago. So I can't wait to actually be there for a few days and doing my thing, teaching, because that'll be a joy and a half to do. And then I get to move myself down to Chicago and visit my godmother and study with Sonia Choquette some more, which she's one of my mentors, and I'm excited to be able to work with her in a nice small group. So September 11th, I'm sure for, just saying it will trigger a lot of different people in a lot of different ways, because we all had our own experience of that, how we heard, how we found out, and, being in driving distance, it was a really kind of surreal thing that happened here. I know it happened everywhere. But as a psychic, as an empath, it was really, really overwhelming. I'm sure everybody had their own experience of that. So for me, you guys know I'm a big feeler. I feel all of the energy of the group, right? So I had days of foreboding and days of anxiety. And I thought it was because my students had a dance performance coming up, which shouldn't have been anxiety producing at all. We did it every single year. My students would dance at the Veterans Hospital that is literally like 3 miles or 2 miles from here. And I'd been dancing at the Veterans Hospital when I was a child, and when my dance teacher retired, then my studio took that over. And we continued to go and give them a show every year in September. And it was just part of the tradition. And it was lovely. The veterans were so happy to have children come and be excited about what they do, and it gave them purpose to what they did. What they've sacrificed for us, we got to show them and share with them. And it was a very humbling experience as a child and as an adult. And so I thought, because we were having a performance coming up, that's what I was nervous about. And on September 11th, I had a mother who's a nurse who called me about something out of the blue. Not a woman who ever talked to me, usually dropped her daughter off and left, didn't hang around, but she felt the need to talk to me and be on the phone with me. And I had flipped on the TV and wasn't really watching the TV, just had it going. And for me, out of the corner of my eye, I'm seeing the tower on fire. And I actually thought it was a movie, and that I had it on the wrong channel. So I'm flipping channels and then realizing that this thing was on every channel. And so I told the woman, hold on, something's happened in New York. And I'm like, I gotta go. I gotta get off this phone. And so I tuned in intuitively as well as, physically, and all of a sudden felt everything going on in both the buildings, and felt the panic, and felt the heat, and felt the anxiousness and the overwhelm, and all of that. And I felt people jumping. I felt the next plane was, as it was heading to the second building, I felt it. And there was no way to change what was going to happen, except I'm yelling at the TV for people to, get out of the building as fast as they can. And just that experience for me of feeling all of those people, feeling when the towers came down and that hugeness. The only thing that's ever been replicated that is similar to my experience is if you've watched the Star Wars movie and the Death Star blows up the planet. And the Jedi Master is just overwhelmed because they felt for that moment all the pain and the crying. So I felt this huge need to get to New York City fast and try to help save people, which made absolutely no sense. I had no credentials. They sure as anything weren't going to let an ordinary citizen into the city. And it was just this overwhelming thing to deal with. And so for me, that's how the energy trauma sits in my body. And I've done some clearing on it because every September 11th, I help people cross over who are connected to that, who stayed for a certain period of time to help their loved ones, or who just really got caught in the energy of not realizing that they were gone. So it didn't even occur to me that was what today was going to bring, in terms of, everybody has their own triggered memory, their own triggered response. And for me, it had to do with not being able to use my gifts, or not knowing soon enough, like I could have prevented it. And so I know there are a lot of people who had that experience, who are sensitive, or who felt things more deeply, and it was difficult to deal with. And so we as a community are all holding on to that energy in our own way. And letting go of that pain is not dishonoring those who went through what they did. But it is honoring that we choose to move forward in a state of love and not stay in a state of fear or of hate or anger. And that's what happens to each one of us when we go through an event that causes us tremendous grief, like the death of a loved one. And it stirs different energy in us, and it works through multiple chakras because it affects our feelings of safety and security, as well as it impacts one of our important relationships, or it causes us to question our self-esteem, our self-worth, because we may have survival guilt. I have somebody who was supposed to go to the towers for lunch that day, and take their daughter to lunch. It was like a big day. They were going to New York City for the day, and they decided to, put off their daughter because they had something important to do at work. And so there's the relief that she didn't take her daughter that day for lunch, but also the, sadness that, it could have been her. So there's the survival guilt of, oh gosh, it could have been me. And so getting caught in that, it could have been me, pauses your energy in that moment in time. And so when we hold on to those things, our energy is pulled into the past and it kind of stays in the past. And that is not healthy. It creates all sorts of disjointed things within us. And so 9/11 is something that we've held on to for a long time. And for some of us, that's 17 years of holding on to that. And my mother-in-law passed away relatively close to that event, enough so that she asked that people not give flowers at our funeral, but that they instead donate to the Red Cross. So even with that happening, we quickly had a death in the family at the beginning of October, and it was still so fresh that it didn't seem okay to do flowers, and that wasn't what she wanted. So we all have things that are attached to this day in particular, and so it's time for us to let some of that go. We can have the memory and that it changed our way of thinking, it changed our way of life. But those kids who are 16, or some of them 17 and younger, they didn't live in that time period, and so they don't have to walk around with that. And we actually traumatize them by bringing it up over and over and over again. Yes, it's good for them to remember and for them to understand, but they don't have to carry our trauma for us either. So when we release our energy, we help them release it too. And so this is a way to tap into any trauma and any grief that got stuck in your body in this particular way, because holding on to it is not serving you, and it's not serving anyone that you may be trying to remember by holding on to it. I hope that makes sense. I get a little bit of a, little bit of a preacher feeling today, I guess. Oh, You are so welcome, Dolores. I appreciate that. Hi, Cindy Lynn. Yes, thank you. It is living in a loop of memories and feelings, being stuck in the same energy field. Yes. And that loop is actually what happens to people who don't cross over sometimes. They get stuck in the loop of their day because, in a way, they're frozen in disbelief. And in that frozen state, they're trying to change the day, trying to make it come out differently. Well, maybe if I don't, if I walk this way to work, it won't happen. Or maybe if I go this way, it's, and so, but there is no changing it. So we have to find a way to release and move through it, because there's a lesson in everything for us. And one of these lessons is, how do we let go? And be good, knowing that letting go is going to let us hold on to all the love energy and let go of all the fear and let go of all the anger and all the frustration. Because grief, yes, it is tied to love, but it's more the fear that you lost something that you're holding on to. And in truth, you still have it. You just don't have it visually in front of you in this moment. Nice. Thanks for checking in, Amy. I'm glad you'll listen this evening. So, phew, a little bit of a heavy subject, I guess, today. But this is what any grief we may be holding on to can live in us in this particular way. But 9/11 triggers that for a lot of people in a lot of different ways. And so it can be a day of remembrance, but there's a difference between remembering the happy and remembering the sad. And so when we hold on to the negative, it sucks us back into the past, into that energy. When we remember the joyful, love-filled times, it's like it's in the present moment. I don't know if that makes sense to you. But when you're in your heart, all moments of time can come together and be one. When you're in fear, you get pulled into the past or you get pulled into the future. And so you're not fully in your body. Cindy Lynn, are you in North Carolina? She's saying, I'm hoping we don't get hit too bad with the hurricane. I am not feeling the hurricane where I am in Massachusetts, but I did explain to Neshie's people who are watching Neshie's show, her card this morning, if you didn't get to see it, it's about intuition, and it was really cool. And I had a dream, but it wasn't really a dream last night. And it felt a lot like the dreams that I had before 9/11. And in this dream, there was a sense of urgency that there was a hurricane coming, and that, not a hurricane, a tornado coming. And that the tornado was coming, and it was coming from the left and behind. And that I was trying to find a place in the house that it was safe for me and my cats, and how to get my cats in that space. And there really isn't. The house is built really strangely, and so there isn't, at this point, a safe place in the house. And so my spiritual team was showing me, that I needed 2 cat carriers. I needed, 4 bowls, 2 for water, 2 for food, cat food for my cats, bottled water, and to put certain blankets in so that they would be safe. They would feel safe in them. And then to put them in the back of the car and to take them to where my husband works at the hospital, and that I had to go in a certain door at the hospital and walk down some hallways and get to this one place. And at the same time as I'm having this dream, my husband wakes up, he's startled awake, and he felt an urgency to go on the computer and start looking up temporary housing where they might have apartments that would take cats. So it had a very weird flavor to it. And I know that dreams have a certain meaning, and normally that would stick with me as what this was, but it had the same flavor as the dreams from 9/11 that I had. And maybe it's just because it was 9/11. But I'm sure you understand that I'm going to listen to whatever that was and make sure that I have 2 cat carriers, not just one, because they'll never get in the same one together. And I do have the bowls, and just make sure that I have extra water on hand. And maybe it's because there's a hurricane coming, but that's all you can do. And so Cindy Lynn is saying, yep, she's right in the path. And you mentioned with my card last week, all I can do is prepare and what little resource we have. Yep, that's all you can do, sweetie, and just hang on. My uncle was an old hurricane chaser. He was in the military, and he flew those planes before we had all this radar stuff set up. And they would fly out in the military planes and keep the hurricane on their radar. And that's how they warned people. He was out of Florida, and that's, what was connected to that. That was his job. And so my family has a different approach to hurricanes, I guess, because of that, because he gave us a lot of information and a lot of preparedness. So I'm holding space that you are surrounded and protected in love and light. So Ellen is saying, I'm crying now for Joe still, even though it has nothing to do with 9/11. Well, yes, when you lose a loved one to cancer, it's very traumatic. And it's not that whole period of time can be frozen in your energy field. Because think about how many of those days you felt numb while you were going through that with him, and feeling out of control, like there was nothing that you could do, even though you were trying so hard, sweetheart, to help. It was just taking its own course. So of course it would feel similar, because we had no control over what happened on 9/11. There's nothing we could have done differently. We can do all sorts of hindsight about, oh, well, if they'd done this with the plane and whatnot. When people are determined, they're determined. And so this is just, there are always going to be events that we can't control, like a hurricane, like a tornado, like a bombing. And when they occur, it's just a matter of how do we not only survive that, but how do we take that survival energy and use it to thrive and use it to become fuller and more who we are meant to be. So that's part of what we're doing here. And yes, there's tons of prayers headed your way, Cindy Lynn. My cousins are in North Carolina as well. So I got those angels out there working on that too. Like I said, heavy topic today. But I think that's a really good thing, right? And maybe we can ask the hurricane energy to give us extra clearing. Big storms carry big medicine. And ones that carry rain and carry snow, they carry a lot of water, which is cleansing, and it may feel destructive, but it's an opportunity for change. So we can actually channel some of that energy and ask it to create positive, loving change for ourselves, within ourselves, and allow the earth energy to help us cleanse while we do our healing work. So we are going to do our clearing, and you get to set the intention on, whether you're just clearing September 11th energy, 9/11 energy, or whether you are clearing your own form of grief that you are holding on to. You can even be clearing grief that you're in the moment. Like if you're going through something right now that is really heart wrenching, and there are periods of time when you feel numb and in disbelief, you can release this as you're going. Cindy Lynn has the perfect answer to that. Laugh out loud. Cleanse all of my life's baggages I don't need or want, then please. Yeah, you guys can put your intention right in the feed if you would like. I would like to clear this energy. I would like to clear that energy. Because actually that vibration of you sending your intention out impacts all of us too, because we're bearing witness to what work you're doing, and you're bearing witness to what we're doing. And then everybody who watches it has the same thing. And that raises the vibration of the healing work. It amplifies it, and allows us to go even deeper and be more full with what we're doing. So feel free to do that. If you don't want to share it in the feed, just say it out loud to yourself, or write it down on a piece of paper, and let that be how that is.
Yeah.
I have candles lit because I always call in a little extra fire. It sets the intention with my spiritual team that that's what we're up to. I also have water nearby, and I have oils, and I have some stones too that help with the clearing energy. Gives me some earth, and I like to think that the the air is connected to the fire as well, with it blowing and keeping the flame moving. So I'm calling in all the elements as we're doing this. So time to get down to it, guys. So first, you're going to get yourself comfy if you aren't already. Make sure your arms and legs are uncrossed. And if you're sitting on the floor, make sure that if your legs are crossed, that they're crossed evenly, because we don't want to block any circuits, because we don't want the energy to ricochet through your body. We want it to flow easily, unhindered. How they show it to me.
Yeah.
And so we're going to begin by calling in the divine, and call in the divine however you perceive it, whether you connect with God or goddess or creator, all that is consciousness, oneness. You may call in Father Sky and Mother Earth. It is your way of connecting that is personally and uniquely yours. So there is no right way to call in the divine.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're going to ask that divine energy to surround and protect us in a bubble of infinite love and infinite light. And if you're having difficulty, or you're feeling a little extra shaky today, then ask the divine to create a second bubble around the room that you're in, or the space that you're in, just so you can have an extra layer of protection. And remember that the bubble goes not only around you, but below you, into the ground beneath you.
Yeah.
Not just a dome, but an entire bubble. In each and every direction, in each and every dimension. And I invite you to call in your spiritual team, your angels, your guides, your ancestors, your loved ones, your animal totems, the mystical creatures, whoever and however you connect to the divine energy, whoever assists you or how you are guided, your teachers. And invite them all in, not just the ones you know by name. You don't want to leave out a member of your team who might be crucial to helping you through this. And we begin by calling in the energy at the top of our head and clearing away any thoughts or memories or ideas, patterns that we may be holding on to or that may be flashing or spinning through our head. And it's not to erase them, but rather to calm them and center them, put them away in the container that they go into.
Yeah.
And release any that are attached to worry, anxiety, for those are future projected.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now asking your third eye and your team to open and expand your intuition, your spiritual gifts, and your communication with your team in all ways possible, so that you may have more clarity and understanding and an inner knowing.
Yeah.
And releasing any pockets of resistance that you might have in using your senses and your intuition in this way.
Yeah.
If you are ready and able and willing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And opening up your ears so that you can hear more clearly the messages that are being given to you, but also so you can be heard more clearly when you're speaking with others and with your spiritual team.
Yeah.
Allowing you to be concise and direct with love and grace.
Yeah. Yeah.
Releasing the energy in your jaw where you may have held on to words or feelings really tightly, trying to control your environment, trying to control the situation that you may have been in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And releasing from your throat any words that went unsaid or you wished you had said, and just allowing the energy to be what it is. And taking away all the stress and the tension that you've held on to in your neck, in your shoulders, where you held on to things out of responsibility or out of burden. Or maybe you've kept a secret for too long for your family or for another.
Right. 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 No. No.
In any way you have held back your self-expression and being your unique self because of this energy,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
maybe you felt you couldn't grieve in front of other people. You had to be strong, or you couldn't release in the way that you needed to.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And moving down your spine and just releasing any ways you didn't feel supported or held or taken care of as you went through this event,
Yeah.
or you are going through this event. There are simply times when we're all so affected that we can't support each other fully. There's too many people in need at once.
Uh, uh, yeah.
Moving into the heart and really allowing any energy in the heart to begin to clear. Any grief, any sadness, any shame you may be holding on to, any guilt,
Yeah.
the it should have been me feeling, or why did it have to happen to someone?
Uh,
That disbelief,
yeah.
any energy that may have collapsed your heart in the moment, creating that sense of numbness or dullness.
Yeah.
And really focusing for a moment on your inner child and how your inner child has been responding or did respond to this energy. Did it cause it to go into fear and into hiding? Did it take on all that sadness for you,
Yeah.
collapsing its joy?
Uh, yeah. Uh, right. 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 Yeah.
And really opening your lungs so that you are able to breathe life deeply and fully, knowing that each breath of life is from Creator and that you are here for a reason.
Yeah.
And the divine is here to fill you in this moment.
Yeah. God's
And opening up all of the bronchial tubes in your lungs and chest, and that get squeezed in fear and anxiousness.
yeah. God. Yeah.
And moving down into the belly, and any way that this caused you fear in the moment,
God. God.
and however you responded to the fear or responded to the trauma,
God. 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 Yeah.
any anger, righteous anger that you may be holding on to about this. Why them? Why me?
Yeah. Yeah. God. Yeah.
Any way it may have created doubt, anxiety, worry within you.
God. Yeah.
And even any depression that it may have caused, the density of the feeling. And releasing any feelings around this that you've held on to for other people, any feelings that aren't yours, you get to release right now. Whether you picked them up from family or friends or society.
Yeah.
But if you are holding others' feelings inside of you, that can release right now.
God. 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 God.
It's okay as an empath to let other people's feelings go. You're meant to feel them for a moment as radar to take action, but you're not meant to carry them. And that doesn't help another person by taking away their feelings.
God. Yeah.
So giving permission back to those around us to feel their own feelings and honor them as sacred messages.
God. 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 God.
And now moving into the lower belly and releasing any other feelings or emotions that you've held on to, yours or others, and how they've impacted your actions and your reactions. Good job, guys. Really allowing that to flow out, honoring that you don't need it anymore. And moving into your first chakra and releasing any extra fear that you're holding onto that has attached itself to your safety or your security. Your ability to get your needs met, worried about enough food, enough water, enough shelter. Any ways it impacted your very home, your very existence. And allowing all of that energy to release and go down your legs, past your hips. Make sure it's the right and the left hip. And down your thighs, past your knees. We often lock our legs and our knees when we are in extreme fear or shock. And let it go down past your calves and your shins and your ankles. Through your feet. And then down through the ground, through the floor, the foundation of the building you might be in, or through the actual earth. And allow that energy to take root like you have giant roots beneath your feet. And if you can't picture that or imagine that, then create a giant umbilical cord from your tailbone, your belly button, or your heart that goes all the way down and connects directly to the Earth Mother in that very center, that molten lava center where her heartbeat is, holding the womb of creation. And everything we release goes through the earth and the layers, past all the rocks and all the crystals and dinosaur bones, past ancient civilizations, all the way to the very center. And now invite the divine energy to come back down through the crown and just cleanse like it's washing away any more debris that we may still have stuck in our energy down through our head, through our jaw and our throat, down our spine and our shoulders, down our heart and our lungs, into our torso and our organs, our upper belly, our lower belly, our reproductive organs, all the way down through our tailbone, our hips, our legs, and down into the ground. And down our arms as well.
Yeah.
And now inviting the earth energy to quickly come up and fill in all the nooks and crannies. Our feet, our legs, into our pelvis, our hips, our belly, all the way up to our lungs and our heart, down our shoulders, our arms and our hands, up through our neck, the top of our head, and out the top. And as it goes out the top, it just gently comes back down over our layers of our aura, repairing and restoring our personal bubble, taking out all the tears or the places where it's stretched too thin.
Yeah.
In the physical, in the emotional, in the mental, and the spiritual layers.
Yeah. Yeah.
As well as through our past lives and through any karmic debt we may be carrying.
Yeah.
For ourselves, for our family, or for humanity.
Yeah.
And begin to take a couple of deep breaths. Blow out anything that you don't need to hold on to. You can even take a noise to let it out. Just allowing your whole body to just release. You might want to stretch or yawn, wiggle your fingers or your toes, whatever feels right for you to let that extra energy go. And slowly come back into this room, into this space, onto this show. Whew. Big medicine. Thank you so much for showing up for yourself today, but also showing up to help clear some of this planetary energy that's lingering. And share this on your page, any groups that you belong to that you feel like they could, get some benefit or some healing from this. There are times when we are just in service, right? And instinctively, we know that there are still people who have held on to this energy, including ourselves, in many different forms. And if we can release the energy that is stuck, then we're no longer triggered by events that are similar. We're going to have a moment of disbelief, but we don't have to go into the whole energy of our our survival being threatened. We can handle people passing, even ones who are really close to us, with a lot more ease and grace. You're still going to grieve, but you're going to do it in a fluid and natural way. You are so welcome, Neshi. Thank you. Yeah, it feels important. And so, there's sort of that lecture, like, get this out there, guys. Help me get this out there. I know I'll be sharing it with some other groups that I don't normally share with, but it feels like it's a broad reaching energy that needs to be healed, kind of on a planetary level. And the cool thing with the archives is once the show is done, the broadcast is immediately available for you to watch here, and then Neshi loads it onto our YouTube channel, the Star Nations channel on YouTube. So you can access this whenever you need it. It doesn't have to be just today. If you get triggered with grief and you're like, oh my gosh, what do I do? And you're like, wait, there was that healing meditation that we did with Polly Joe that released grief. And you can skip forward to just the meditation part. And what happens in the healings that I do is that the vibration carries forward to whenever it's watched and who. So we were clearing not just who was in the room, in the chat room in this moment, but every other person who will see it at some future date. And how cool is that you guys showed up not just for yourself, but to hold space for all of those other people as well. So I'm giving you a couple moments of gratitude. And I know I've run over because it was really, yes, it was really intense. So here's the link for the YouTube channel. And, if you want to experience the healing energy, believe it or not, it's more intense in person because it's really geared toward just who's in the room at the moment. So you can reach out to me for my own healing services, but I'll be in at Star Nations Academy in October, and it's going to be a lovely, intimate group. And we're spending the time really releasing all of the things that are blocking our love energy. And whether it's giving love or receiving love fully and unconditionally. And so who doesn't want an opportunity to do that? And it's a great way to come study. And, I would love to have you guys. And I will see you tomorrow night for Soul Connections, where we do the healing meditation and I draw cards with guided messages. The cards have been real intense and really to the point. So my spiritual team is really gearing up for the energy of this new year. Because with Rosh Hashanah, a number of people have entered into a new year, and we have the new school year. So there's a lot of renewed energy. So if you would like some help and some guidance, come join me. And if not, I'll see you here next week at noon for Soul Connections. And with that, guys, have a great day.